All right, welcome to Young Money Podcast. My name is Diana Menezes.
And I'm Vince Galanco. Thank you for joining us. This is a podcast where, we try to reach out to young entrepreneurs or young at heart entrepreneurs and learn how they're making money. I think
Yeah.
Filipinos in general, or just people in general, are shy about asking about finances and figures. Like, do you
Yes.
usually do? I mean, it's kind of rude, right? D, if someone came up to you and like, how much are you
How much are you
making?
earning? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be rude, right? I mean, it would honestly be rude. And I don't know when you can ask that. Like, is there a point when you can? Like, if you're super close friends?
Well, siguro sa ating kultura dito sa Pilipinas, pwede yung parang palusot lang. Like, oh, if we enter into this business, how much are you expecting to earn or something? But it's very difficult actually.
It's
Unlike you're here in this podcast, you can just go straight forward because ito naman talaga ang topic natin, di ba? But if you're just asking like straight up to people, I think it's kind of weird.
yeah, it's
How
hard
do
to
you
make
do it?
that discarte to sneak that in
Yeah,
there. But here we
yeah,
brief our guests from the start. We already tell them, hey, we're gonna ask you about money, so don't get
correct.
offended or anything. But it's for our viewers.
Before getting into it.
Exactly. So our guest today is a good friend of mine. He actually helped me get into this whole online gaming craze that has to do with cryptocurrency, where you can earn real money online. Before we invite him on, you also have some sort of crypto or NFT show, right? Could you
That's
tell me about
correct.
it?
So I have this online show every Monday 8 p.m. It's called Mug NFT Marketplace. Now it's actually uh, this show is produced by the first NFT marketplace of the Philippines. Yes, which is also they're trying to develop, and what we're trying to do mainly is to expose this new thing, like cryptocurrencies and as well NFT, the NFT market and this whole thing to Filipinos, because as we all know, supply and demand lang on crypto. So if Filipinos are after it and if Filipinos are supporting it, just like what happened with Ethereum, right? When
Yes.
the Russians started supporting it, for the ones who are watching us right now and they don't know anything about crypto yet, it's just a matter of you believing in it, and supply and demand will be the one that will give it a place on the market. So, ganon din ang gusto nating mayari sa atin. Like, if we have our own crypto in the Philippines and we have our own market for it, hopefully naman, kagat yan ng mga Pinoy para sisikat din siya sa buong mundo, di ba?
I'll try to give a simple explanation also of NFTs and crypto. But before I do that, where can people catch your show in case
So
they want to?
they can catch the show on the Facebook of Mug NFT Marketplace now. And then for the ones who are familiar with the token venture, so they will know about that. But that's on Facebook as well. So it's every Monday 8 p.m. Kasama ko dyan si Marvin Favis, which he's also like a very trending TikToker right now about crypto, teaching a lot of people how to do crypto, a lot of Filipinos, and I like it, because now we're reaching the masses and hopefully tuloy-tuloy na lang siya.
Okay, well, for those not familiar, hopefully you do tune in. But crypto is a huge thing. It's more on the reason cryptocurrencies are growing in the world is because it's supposedly a way to keep your money that's
Yes.
better than a savings account because it's growing much more than a savings account.
Yep.
One, two, supposedly the beauty of crypto in the future is it is secure and safe and untraceable. Uh, so that's the reason people want to get into it is because supposedly evil governments or whatnot can't trace your money and steal your money or whatever things like that. So that's the
We
reason it's
also,
slowly growing.
Vince, we
Yes,
need to help people, especially the generation prior to ours, understand the importance of crypto because it's kind of
exactly,
difficult, diba? To make
exactly.
them understand. Yeah.
So that's the very basic. It's a bit more complicated, but that's the most basic I can explain it. And then NFT stands for non-fungible token. They are pretty much online
Anything.
anything, online pictures or videos that has a unique digital stamp that can't be replaced. So this will be like the authentic picture online, the first authentic picture. Yes, you can copy it and paste the picture, but this is the real original one.
Yeah.
Uh and it's worth money now. So imagine like having the Mona Lisa, the picture, but you have the original
I was
digital
just gonna
work.
mention that as an example. That
Yeah.
I love that you think.
I think all the and when they explain NFTs to you, I think that's the example they use. So
I
maybe
have this
it's
other, yeah, I have this other explanation. Like, for example, if you have a lot of jackets,
hmm
like literally, like jacket
yeah,
lang, like
yeah.
and then there's this particular jacket that you just always wear, and if you go to the store, pareho lang naman siya. You can buy 10 of the same jacket, but because the jacket belongs to someone with a history of something that is really special, you know what I'm saying? Then
Okay.
you can actually make it into a non-fungible token and make it special. Like, for example, something that it belongs to an athlete or someone really, as long as it has a different value for that person and they will make it digital, then that will be also a non-fungible token, even if a lot of people have the same.
Okay. So that we tried our best to explain, but uh our guest today actually works in that where he is the founder of excuse me. He's the founder of Axie Academy, which is a guild that specializes in this game called Axie Infinity. And the game is one of the fastest growing NFT games around the world where people, especially in the Philippines, can play to literally earn crypto, literally earn money just for playing the game.
I
And he
love
was
that.
and what happened was it's expensive to get it to buy into it because you have to buy these Pokemon, these Axies, to play the game. And they got to a point where one Pokemon, one Axie there was a point where it was $300 each. So and you need three of them to start. So it's like 15,000 pesos to start. So what
Wow.
people do was if they can't afford to start, they get a scholarship, which is sort of like you get a manager. They call it a manager who's sort of the
Mhm.
he invests, he pays for the team, and he lets you play it. He lets you borrow it, and in exchange, you split the profits. And the splits are anywhere from 70-30 to 50-50. So with 70% going to the scholar. So this guy he's been doing it for quite a while. So let's go pick his brain. A friend of mine, Peter Ing. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Hey guys,
Hey, how
nice
you
Hi,
to,
doing?
Peter.
great to
So
meet you.
I gave a brief description of you, but maybe you could tell us more about you and Axie Academy.
Yeah, sure. So my background in crypto and especially in the Philippines is I was basically about 3 years ago, and I guess till today, I've been an owner, a partner in a co-working space. And in this co-working space, I was very fortunate to have an event space, which I could basically run events for in at any time I wanted to. And basically, the crypto and kind of blockchain technology really fascinated me ever since 2016, 2017. If you guys remember that far, that there was like a mini bull market then. And there was a lot of new technologies and projects coming out at that time. And what happened is in 2018, the market started going down. There was a lot of people leaving the market. No one was talking about it anymore. But then I thought it was the best time to start learning about the technology and actually, what's so great about it and why is it so sustainable. And so, using my co-working space, I used to host meetups and events, bringing together kind of all the cryptocurrency experts and blockchain technology kind of developers, and we used to talk about the technology with like the local community, and we used to introduce all the new concepts. So yeah, as Vince mentioned, I was very fortunate to get involved with Axie very early on, and the reason for that is quite literally I was running these events right in the local community. So this is a space in a co-working space in Makati, right? And people would come down and basically learn about it. And we brought Axie into the Philippines initially in 2018. So
Wow.
before it kind of like blew up and went crazy. And so that's kind of how we first got into it. And if you can imagine, right, Axie was not the same as it is today. There was no even mobile version of the Axie game, and people couldn't play against each other. You would play against the computer. So Axie back then in 2018 was not what you see today. But what has happened in the middle is just phenomenal.
It's huge. It's huge. Like everyone I know is talking about it. Everyone I know asks, "Oh, can I be your scholar?" And I'm like, "What? I'm just a host of the show." Like, wait a minute.
That's what
Yeah,
happens. Anytime you mention Axie, yes, they ask if they can be your scholar, if you
yeah,
can be a manager. So many people in the Philippines are looking for it because what you can earn from it, it can be at times it can be more than the minimum wage here per
wow,
month.
yes,
Oh,
fact.
completely. Yeah. So I mean, it's really the gift and the curse of Axie. So people in crypto, like I don't know if you guys spend much time on Twitter, but there's something called crypto Twitter. So it's basically a community within, like it's like a sub community in the Twitter space, right?
Mm.
Which is kind of like all the crypto influencers. They basically spend most of the time tweeting and following industry trends. And people started hearing about Axie, and they would literally just mention Axie, like in passing, like they knew someone that was working in the field, but they themselves weren't working with anything to do with Axie. And they would mention the word Axie Infinity, right? And in the comments, you'd suddenly get spammed like 100 like scholar applications. Like everyone wanted a scholarship, and it was absolutely insane, right? And then we just, that was just one of the indications that this thing is going to be absolutely huge.
So can you run us by some of the figures, Pete? Why is it such a thing? Why do they get 100 people asking to be a scholar? What are the earnings? How does that work for people not familiar with it?
Yeah, sure. So I think, as you mentioned, Vince, like the prices of Axies, they went up in the last kind of months. So even if you look back to not even quite a year ago, right? I think at one stage back then, Axies were only around like $5 to $10 per an Axie, right? So it was very, very affordable, and the people that already got into the game before it kind of blew up, they were able to kind of like accumulate Axies at a very reasonable price. I mean, if you were talking about so one team is basically 3 Axies, and if you imagine back then, if an Axie was basically $5, one team is $15. So very, very affordable. You would probably spend that on any kind of like computer game, to get started. And then what kind of happened in the subsequent months is there were a lot of kind of like Axie OGs, we call them, like the originals that basically had been in the game for a long time. And one of the mechanisms in the game is that to be able to create more Axies, you need to be able to breed them, right? So to be able to create more teams, you need to be able to do this breeding mechanism, right? And these Axie OGs like started to breed like crazy. They started to have a lot of accounts, right? And then they were like, okay, what am I going to do with all these Axies that I hold now? And as soon as Axie had released this new token, which was called the Smooth Love Potion, then it enabled basically the players who were playing with these accounts to actually earn the Smooth Love Potion and actually be able to convert it into local currencies. So not just Philippine peso, but US dollars, pounds, or like any currency kind of in anyone's local country. So what happened is like some of these Axie OGs, they started trying out these programs called Axie scholarships. And they were like, okay, we're gonna loan out those Axies that we're not using. And some of these guys were holding literally 100,000 Axies, right? And it's kind of unheard of today because an Axie is like around $200 today, right? But what happened is like this loaning model became really, really popular, right? So at the same time, kind of Axie blew up. Like in the Philippines, especially, like loads of people started getting in, and the prices of Axie started to skyrocket from like $5 to $200. Right. So okay, now that I've kind of diverted away from your question, but so today, if you were to look at the price of those teams, you're probably paying around $600 for a team, which is
Okay.
really out of the reach of most people, right? So the people that already have teams at $600, what they're doing is they are now leasing them out to scholars. And those scholars basically will play with the accounts for about 3 hours a day, and at the end of the month will be earning somewhere in the range of like around like two to kind of like $400 in a month, right? Depending on like how much they play and how well they play, right? And what's happening is basically, as you mentioned before, right? The total earning of the scholar is kind of being split. So the manager is saying, okay, well, in return for you spending time playing with my accounts, right, I will give you the majority of whatever you earned in that balance. So like 70%, and I'll keep 30% as part of like the compensation for me loaning out those teams to you. Does that make sense?
Yep. So they're earning around $200 to $400, depends, because SLP is it's sort of a crypto of its own. The price goes up and down. At its peak, I think SLP right now is at 4 pesos, but there was a point where it was 20 pesos each.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you guys mentioned it earlier as well. Cryptocurrencies are also driven by supply and demand, right? So when there's more demand and less supply, right, then generally the token price will go up, right? And actually, there are some tools out there, some monitoring tools, which allow you to see like exactly where supply and demand is for SLP, and that kind of helps you understand why the price is at what it is today. So I think because we had this massive explosion where there was a huge influx of players coming into Axie, and so if we compare it to kind of a year ago, right, I think we were something like 5 to 10,000 players, right? We look at it today, there's 1.5 to 2 million players. Like that's how many people came in the last year. So you can imagine like that explosion just really created all this demand, right? And that's why the price really skyrocketed. But then, of course, it had to plateau at some stage. Like, the growth was just huge. It was, there are still ways for the game to continue to grow. But it just had that very, very explosive growth in the last year.
Diana, how familiar are you with the whole Axie Infinity thing? I'm just curious.
No, so I've been wanting to know more about Axie, and I'm glad that we are hosting this podcast and that Peter is here, because like probably everybody that I deal with is talking about it, and I'm the only one who's like, hmm. And people are asking me all the time, "Oh, can you be my manager?" And I'm like, guys, I'm not yet playing that, but I would love to do that. And now I think I'm gonna start now that I know the benefits of everything. Yeah. So
is
ikaw,
yeah.
Vince, you?
Well, I want to ask you, because in case we have listeners not familiar, because I play the game, and
Ah,
I have scholars myself, so I'm very familiar. So it's one thing for people who aren't familiar. Is this making sense? Is it too technical? Do you have extra questions or anything?
it's not that technical yet, but I
Okay.
love how he's explaining it because it's all
Okay.
like very clear. So how does it work? Well, let's say I'm first time I want to play. So do I have to join a team? I can make my own team. I just buy the token. How does it work?
Yeah, so you need to buy your first three axes. You need to have one team, and that means
Which
three
takes
axes.
to work, right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Now, the interesting thing about that is right now, to own Axes, you actually need to know a little bit about cryptocurrency. So it's kind of like teaching you, okay, let's get into crypto. How do I buy this first crypto so that I can buy these first Axes? Now, Axes
Mhm.
actually trying to address this right now. They're trying to make it easier for you so that you can just use pesos to buy these Axes. But today, you can't use pesos to buy Axes directly. You need to buy something called Ethereum, which is one of those
Yeah.
top cryptocurrencies. So it really kind of forces you, if you want to get into it right now, you have to learn at least what Ethereum is and how to buy Ethereum.
Mhm.
So that's a great question from Diana. So yeah, so for our listeners, how do they start? So I think there's two things. So we have some listeners who want to earn and play the game. As you said, maybe they spend 2-3 hours a day playing, and they could earn for $400, give or take. But the other question is also how to be a manager. So I think those are two different things. So let's start with scholars. I think more people would be leaning into that if they're listening and they want to be a scholar. How do they get started with that?
Yeah, so I think my best advice, because there is no, so let me just make this clear from the start. So an Axie scholarship program is an unofficial program run by business owners, right? So it means that every business owner is going to be different, right? So some are ethical, some are unethical, right? And Axie does not, they do not vet any of these business owners. So it's completely independent of the game itself, right? So you need to be very careful which, Axie scholarship you decide to join. Now, okay, how do you find these Axie scholarships? Now, many of them have websites. Many of them have Twitter accounts. Many of them you can find through local social media pages. So, for instance, Axie has an official Philippines community page. Right, you can go to the Facebook page of Axie Infinity, and you can find a list of like kind of verified or listed guilds, we call them. And they are kind of like listed on the page, and you can check whether the name is there. But the chances are that this list is not 100% updated. So you actually need to kind of I guess you need to do a little bit of research into who the guild is and what their reputation is. So that
Or
would
they can also come to Axie Academy.
they can, but I don't like to self promote myself. But yes, absolutely they can.
That,
Yes, you can totally promote yourself,
that's the
please.
point of this.
Okay.
That's one of the points. But yeah, okay. So they need to. Unfortunately, there's no like concrete directory to find managers for scholars. So they just have to sort of go online, which is why anyone who mentions Axie, they sort of bombard with scholarship questions. And not to mention, there's limited spaces because even for Axie Academy, I think even you guys, you recruit maybe a few dozen, if that. At your peak, you were recruiting a few dozen a week, and it's lowered. I know by now because of the expensive cost of Axies now. So it is difficult to find the scholarships, but I guess they just go online and anyone who mentions Axie, even when Diana mentions Axie at all, they start asking for scholarship. But that's sort of what they have to do, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
every time we have a topic about Axes and like people are just like asking me and then bombarding me with DMs and all of these things, and I'm like, guys, wait long.
Well,
I'm not the right person for you to apply for this. I want to apply myself, I want to join.
well, the right person is Pete, and so Pete, let's say someone is I mean, yeah, someone does want to apply for a scholarship. What do you look for? What are their? I mean, what do they need? Do they need like a college degree? Do they need what? Yeah, what are the qualifications you look for?
Okay. So yeah, just bearing in mind that every Axie scholarship is basically its own unique business, right? And it's run by its own unique business owner. So every scholarship program is probably having a different onboarding process. So I can run you through what we look for in Axie Academy. So literally, we are non-discriminatory, right? So we want to be able to provide. So the way we see this is like, it's a no-cost way to start playing computer games for a living, right? So it's literally you don't have to make any investment whatsoever. If anyone asks you to make an investment, that's a big red flag already. And I know that some people already do that. So already, if people ask you put down money, to be able to play the game, don't do it. Like I think that's already a really big flag.
Other than if you're buying your own Axies, that's different. But for a scholarship,
Correct.
you shouldn't have to put any money down.
Exactly. We're only talking about the scholarship programs now. So remember, you were talking about like the different scholarship owners or different businessmen, right, or women, right? There are plenty of women that own scholarships too. Right? It's very non-discriminatory. What we look for, okay, so there is one important rule in Axie. You have to be 18 years and over to be able to play the game. Why do you need to be 18 years over? Because you're dealing with cryptocurrency, right? So the cryptocurrency aspect makes it like only available for adults. There are ways to get around that, but generally we we look for people who are 18 years and above. Then it doesn't matter, male, female, wherever you're from in the world. It just so happens that we work very closely with Filipino communities, but it doesn't matter who you are or what race or what your background is. We will definitely consider you. Now, what's the next part that we would think about? We would look to see if you've done any kind of research on the game itself. Now, the game, like a lot of people like to think the game is completely super simple to play. It's actually not. So I'll be really honest. Like, yeah, Vince is a great player, but Vince did a crazy amount of research to get into the game. And I remember for his first days, didn't understand anything, and then put in some hard hours into kind of like learning how to, how the mechanics work, what the cards mean, and so on. And if you are a gamer, you are definitely at an advantage because you're going to understand what the game mechanics are like. But
I got that.
yeah, so if you're not a natural gamer, right, then it's going to be harder, but it's not impossible. So you've got to go watch some tutorials, like look for people who have uploaded tutorials, onto YouTube. There's tons, like hundreds or maybe thousands now of tutorials, and you'll get yourself at least a basic knowledge, right? And I think that's really going to help your application. Why? Because we want people that really want to play the game for, like consistently. And I think something to understand is like, if you want an account, and like you said, the accounts are very limited, right? Who would you choose to play those accounts? Someone who's really willing to play 2-3 hours a day, or someone who wanted an account because they said, oh, you can earn from it if, just by kind of like logging in, every day, but not actually putting that much effort into it, because what will happen is like your earnings will be low, then the manager's earnings will be low, and it probably won't be worth it for both parties, right? So managers always want to see like people that really are committed, because I think you can kind of see it as, because there is money involved, it really does become kind of part-time work, right? And you should kind of see it as some kind of time commitment on your end.
Mm.
Oh, okay. And how do they prove that to you? How do you, like, when you're selecting? How do you, like, in a nutshell? How do you select
Very,
your scholars?
yeah, so very basic kind of questions. Like we'll ask you about, you know, uh, uh, you know, uh, how does Axie work? What are the
Okay.
gameplay,
Oh, so
right?
you ask a few questions. Okay.
Yeah, just some very, very basic kind of
And so,
onboarding
so
questions.
you pretty much be willing to play daily and be over 18.
Yes.
Okay. And if they're gamer, it's a plus. How about for managers? What do you recommend for people who don't have the time to play every day, but they want to invest into this? They believe in crypto and
Oh,
NFTs.
is that possible? Even if a person doesn't have time, they can just be a manager and just recruit
Hundred
it.
percent, 100%. So
Wow.
there's many ways to do it. So
So
if
there
you
you go,
want,
Diana. You can be a manager now. Take
I wanna,
notes.
you know, I'm taking so many notes from you, Peter. You have no idea. You have no
oh my
contact
gosh, you already have a whole page full.
Yeah. Yeah, I do my homework. All right.
Yeah. So for the scholarship managers, right? So yes, it's a considerable investment these days. I mean, a year ago, if there was $5 per an Axie, then not a problem. I think for most people they can afford it. But now today, you're looking at $600 per team. That's a serious investment, right? And something you should be very wary of is all of it is crypto related, right? And underpinned by kind of crypto. So what you do, if you remember, the Axies themselves are priced in Ethereum, right? So the first thing you need to do is buy the Axie in Ethereum.
Vegetarian.
So
Yeah.
the question is like, is that Ethereum, is it going to go up or down? And I can't tell you that. I mean, like right now, yeah, we happen to be in what we call a bull market in the investment space, and maybe yeah, Ethereum will continue to go up for now, right? And the value of your Axies that you buy today might even continue to go up in valuation because they are priced in Ethereum. It's like me saying, buy those Axies in Hong Kong dollar, right? And
Mhm.
then the Hong Kong dollar gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and then you want to convert it back into Philippine peso, you will get more pesos back because the Hong Kong dollar went up, right? Something like that, right? So that's the way you've got to see it, right? Then, exactly what Vince was saying earlier. You need to consider the risks of the SLP price fluctuation, and you can go literally from 4 pesos to 30 pesos, right, per an SLP, right? And it's such a huge difference, right? It's a bit crazy to think like that your business suddenly could be making revenue at 30 pesos per an SLP, and then suddenly drop by like 90% or something, and then completely be wiped out, like all your revenues wiped out overnight, kind of thing. And that's something that you just have to be very, very wary of. So I think to be an investor in this, you need to be long term, right? The current ROI, and I know you guys are very interested in understanding, like if you were to invest in this today, how fast would I get my investment back? So let's look at
show me the money. I think we asked that on the show, so I think now's a good time. Yeah. So yeah, if someone were to invest, what? Yeah, go on.
Okay. So let's put it this way: a team cost is around $600 today, right? That's at today's Ethereum rate per an Axie. Okay. Now, a typical scholar might earn around, let's say, 4,000 SLP in a month, right? That's around $280, right? The take home basically for the guild manager from that 4,000 SLP, right, will be $84. That will be around 30% of what they're earning, right? Now, that 30%, how long does it take to pay back that team cost? Probably around 7 months right now. So the ROI calculation is constantly changing because of the SLP price fluctuation, right? So if SLP is really high, ROI is going to be really fast. It's going to be even faster than 7 months. Like at one stage, I think ROI was 2 weeks. It was ridiculous, right?
What?
Yeah, it went as fast as that, but then it crashed, right? So SLP dropped all the way down, and now it's at a very reasonable 7 months. Now, if you consider it from a business perspective, an ROI of 7 months for
I was about to
any
say it's really
It's
good.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Any ROI that's below 2 years is sort of like, be careful. That's a scam. That's a Ponzi. Usually it'll be about 3, 4, 5 maybe years. If it's like 2 years and below, that's already good. So be careful. It might be too good even. So 7 months is absolutely reasonable.
Yes, exactly. And that I think that's kind of why a lot of people are attracted to this. So you've got multiple upsides, right? So the first thing is the fast ROI. The second part is you're investing in cryptocurrency, right? Your Axies are denominated in ETH, in Ethereum, right? So if the price of Ethereum goes up, it means all your assets that you bought are actually going up in value compared to US dollars, right? Or whatever you want to denominate against, right? But yeah, generally it's going up in US dollar valuation, right? So like the price of Ethereum, I think last year at some stage was $600. I imagine owning Axies at $600, right? And the amount of ETH, so let's say it was 0.2 ETH, right? Now that 0.2 ETH at today's valuation has probably more than, I think it's gone at least 5 times or more, right? Because so okay, my maths is going to fail me right now, but yeah. So if ETH was at $600 today, ETH is nearly at $4,000, right? So that's more than around 5 times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, your value of your Axies has already gone up 5 times without doing anything. So already that's a very attractive prospect, right? So it's high risk, high reward, right? So that's, I think people see it like that. But then the ROI aspect on having these assets being used and then providing a return in 7 months is even like more attractive. So it just kind of like yeah, because there are so many different elements to it, and then it being like a very like early game, and probably being the first play to earn game, and having other play to earn games coming to join this space, and more like, adding more value. Like the bigger the market grows, the bigger the value of the whole space,
Okay.
right? So considering that Axie might be very early days, it'd be like trying to get into a tech company very, very early. You were just investing very early with that like really big upside.
So lots of upsides. Pete, how many scholars do you have?
Secret. So I I will let you in on this, right? At some stage, you were saying that basically our breeding has started slowing down, and I wouldn't say it's because we are producing less SLP, right, or we don't have the means to actually reinvest. I'd say it's because you don't want to get past a certain size at some stage, and I've been explaining this to a lot of people recently that if imagine managing like 1,000 Axie accounts, right? How are you gonna individually look at 1,000 accounts and see whether they're performing well, right? And the other thing is, like with the game, if the game were to change some mechanics and it needed you to change just one Axie per team, and the Axie is $200, and you have 1,000 accounts, what's the investment you need to change one Axie across 1,000 accounts? It's $200 multiplied by 1,000 accounts. That's $200,000. It's $250,000,
So you're
right? Just
saying you have 999 scholars. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. So what I'm saying is that it gets really, really complicated and expensive when you get
Okay.
really, 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 really big. So I
Got it.
think that, like, for the people that want to start out at the beginning, having a smaller and nimble scholarship program actually has a lot of perks, right? It allows you to adapt to the game changes, very, very quickly.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
So
I'm very interested in starting mine as well, even if just as an investor. Like
Sure.
this is, it's a huge market, Peter, that I really want more Filipinos to embrace. Because people are still like, I don't know if it's like the older generation has a stigma against anything that the newer generation is doing. Our generation is like creating things, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not ready to invest in that. Is that real?" Like we need to. I think it's our role now as we're the adults of this generation. We have to teach them as well, for them to understand what is coming, what is about to take over the world. And I think it's better than having your money in the bank. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you into some of my secrets. I haven't even told my parents about Axie. I don't want to explain it to them. I think they're gonna find it like a scam as well. And it doesn't matter how many hours I probably try to explain it to them, they probably won't get it. Right. So I just didn't even try. Right. But in the meantime, you surround yourself with people that believe, and
Mhm.
I understand the technology, right? And I think that's my advantage, right? Is I spent time learning the technology and understanding why, exactly why Vince and you yourself, like you were talking about NFTs, and all of the assets in these games, these play to earn games like Axie Infinity, they're all NFTs. So why are they more valuable than like regular game assets, right? You got to study it, but they are it has basically, it's part of a new technology era, and it's exactly what you said. Like, you need to understand what new technology has been introduced here to understand the new value and why people are so excited about this. And yeah, you should be questioning, like, is this a Ponzi, is this a fraud? Like, you should question that, right? That's very natural for any business owner or an investor, right? And but then I think once you understand what the technology, the new technology is about, and what changes have been made, and I will just give you an example from Axie, right? And a lot of people don't know this. Axie does not create the characters for the game players, right? They only created like the first, I think it's around like 10,000 Axies in the whole game. So if we're at 1 million players right now, So that means you need at least 3 million Axies, right?
Mhm.
Uh, right, because it's three per team, right? So who created the other Axies from the 10,000 to the 3 million? So what people don't realize is the community did. That's the community. It's the community owns all those Axies. Like they're the ones that bred the Axies, right? And they own it. So that means they believed in the game. They wanted more people to be able to play the game, right? They saw that there was demand, right? So Vince owns Axies. I own Axies. Other like probably like a have like a couple 100,000 people will own Axies, right? And we all believe that there is this new generation of gamers that are going to come in and play with these Axies because there is that demand for it. So
Okay.
that's so important. People don't realize that. Like
Yeah.
Axie does not own all the game assets. It's not like Fortnite, where in Fortnite, did you have to pay for a game character? Right? Now, all
Yeah.
the characters are free, but that's because the game characters are all owned by the game publisher, by the game maker, right? And
Okay.
this time, like Axie has flipped it around, right? And they said, no, the community is going to own all the game characters.
Okay. We're running low on time, so I think D has to
So
jump.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna recap a little bit for the people that would like to know more. If they cannot watch this again, I hope that they get. I hope they get to watch the full episode once again for them to understand better. But basically, well, with having Peter here, we can all understand that this is a growing market, and this is something that we hope that everyone can start learning more about it. Like it started like probably a year ago, like what Peter said was like $5 to $10, and then now it's worth $200. And if you want to have a team, you have to buy three, which means you have to spend at least $600. That's why there's a lot of people trying to be scholars here. And I think even if you don't have the time, maybe you should take a little bit of your time when I'm sure everybody has priorities in life. So make this a priority as well, just for you to always be informed of what is about to come. And even if you don't have the time to play, you can still be an investor by being a manager, right? And recruiting more people to play with you. And at the same time, you're going to be investing in cryptocurrency, which is really important to have right now, especially after this pandemic. It just grew like so huge. It's a market. Well, I have been extremely interested in studying about this all the time, especially because I have to host different shows that talked about it all the time. So I'm like extremely involved with people that are doing cryptocurrency, and I'm like, I have to start mine. I have to, and especially Axie. So thank you, Peter. We would like to ask you also a question. What is the piece of advice you give to all these people that to all everyone watching right now, the young money watchers and our viewers, nothing, our viewers here that would like to invest or they would like to start? Just give us just your best advice.
No
Uh,
pressure.
I'm
After
gonna
all
go.
the good advices that you gave us.
I'm just gonna go with the traditional cryptocurrency advice, and we have this saying. It's called "Do your own research," right? Because no one's gonna do it for you, right? So it's called DYOR, and you'll see it around a lot in any cryptocurrency community. We are dealing with like a nascent technology. It's very early days, right? There are people trying to scam people all around. Like I said, like with Axie scholarship programs, you should not be paying to join an Axie scholarship program. If anything, the scholarship program owner needs the scholars, right? And it's a two-way deal, right? Yeah, I have an account, you play with my account, and then because you put in the time, you get paid for your time, right? And and you reward me back because you borrowed my account, right? So it's a really a reciprocal deal, and look out for scammers. There are a lot around.
Okay, there you go. And if people want to reach out to you or apply for a scholarship or have more questions, where can they find you?
Please
Uh,
promote yourself. Don't feel anything about it. You're here for us to really put the word out there, and we would love for you to do that.
Sure. So I'm a very shy marketer, but you can find me on Twitter. So I'm Peter underscore Ing, ING. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter.
Or if they want, or I think I'm asking about Axie Academy.
Oh, okay. Well, she was saying promote yourself.
Yeah, yes, you do. But I mean, don't forget Axie Academy. Like,
Okay, yeah.
how can they watch your streamers? How can they find out more about your guild with your
Oh,
999 scholars?
oh, okay. We are both on Twitter and on Facebook, so you can actually find us Axie Academy on Facebook, and again Axie Academy on Twitter. So yeah, look for us.
There you
Nice.
go. Thank you so much, Pete. Learned a lot, but there's so much more to it. So they can check you out on Facebook. Well, Axie Academy on Facebook. It should pop up when they search for it if they want to apply for scholarships. Or you do have streamers there as well who stream the game, and maybe they can learn from them. But thank you for all the advice. Diana has an NFT show. Maybe we can talk afterwards as well. Maybe we can have you guest on there
Yeah,
sometime because
Sure,
definitely. Yeah, I would love that.
would
definitely
love
learned
to.
a lot. So there you go, guys. Our guest, Peter Ing from Axie Academy, here joining us on this podcast, the Young Money Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Vince from wheninmanila.com, together
My
with,
name, my name is Diana Menezes.
and this was the Young Money Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
See
Thank
you.
you.